So first thing that we're going to get into is ask, tell, demand. And I'm just going to explain these 3 steps. First step is ask. This tool can be applied whenever we are trying to move someone into understanding or into some change. Whenever we're trying to move someone into some kind of action, this is a really effective tool. This is effective when it comes to teams on dairies. It's effective when it comes to helping your kids maybe learn a new habit or implement some structure in their day. And it's not about a one conversation. That's why I really love this tool. It is at the least about 3 conversations. The first conversation is ask. This is where we literally just say, I'm wondering if you could help me by doing this in this way. It could be in a training when you're teaching a protocol. It could be if you need someone to make an adjustment in how they interact with other employees at the dairy. It could be about if you're trying to get your child to clean their room or pick up after themselves or remember to call you when they've gone from one place to another, right? Anything that you're wanting someone to do differently, you can use ask, tell, demand. And ask is the first step. And you're going to see why it's called ask, because aren't you always asking? Well, yes and no. So the reason we start with a very simple, very kind ask is because the vast majority of people actually want to be compliant. Sometimes as leaders and as managers, we think that people don't want to be compliant. They actually just want to be a rabble rouser. They want to make my job more difficult. They're always so stubborn. I don't know why they don't listen to me, right? Why, we've talked about this. I mean, all the things that I hear managers say when they're being honest. But the reality is, most of our employees, most of our team members, they really do want to be compliant. They just need to know what we want from them. So a kind and very straightforward ask is always the best place to start. Could you help me by doing this? Oh, let's do that job this way. I noticed you're only stripping twice instead of 4 times on each quarter. I noticed that you're barely swiping the ends of the teat. Let's make sure that we're spending a little time on that teat end. I'm just thinking of all the things that I've asked over the years, right? That's ask. Would you do this for me? Can you do this way? Thank you, please, and thank you are important in an ask. Okay, that's first step. Second is tell. What we're going to do when we move to tell is we're just going to ratchet up the pressure just a little. We've already asked. We've already asked them to do a job a certain way. We've already asked them to pitch in. We've already asked them, and we're clear about what we would like them to do. So now with tell, what we're going to do is just increase the pressure a little. And all we're going to do is change our voice. I talked to you about this last week, and I haven't noticed that you've made this change yet. So today, I'm asking you again, could you be sure and do this while you're in the parlor? Could you be sure and strip those teats 4 times each? And this is what you're going to say. Can I count on you to do that for me? Save the can I count on you to do that for me in your tell. Because what you're doing, all the kindness is still there. Please and thank you can still be there. But what we're doing is we're focusing it on them. Can I count on you to do that? And they're going to say yes. And then you say, thank you. That's a tell, just a little more pressure. And before I move into demand, what I want to do is give you a little background on where I developed this from. This, if any of you are horse people, ask, tell, demand is something that they use in training horses. And basically with a horse, you're giving more pressure by giving stronger cues, right? More cues with your feet, more cues with the reins, a little more encouragement in order to do what you're asking the horse to do, right? And that ask and tell are very similar. We're just using a little more pressure. Horses are not people, and let me tell you, people are not horses. And so that's kind of where the commonality ends. And as we go into the next two steps, I just want you to remember people are not horses, but this is where I got the idea. Okay, so after tell, if the person is still non-compliant, now what we need to do is increase more pressure. And I work with a lot of managers who they think that means you get real serious. You got to let them know you mean business. And usually whatever they do next is not good when that's the way they're thinking about this. And so I want you to remember that the only difference between tell and demand is a consequence. Your voice is going to be exactly the same. You're still going to say please and thank you. You're just going to implement a consequence. So it might go something like this. We talked about changing the way that you're doing the protocol in the parlor. And then a little while later, I told you again. And now through observation, I can see that we still have some slippage here. We still have some procedural drift that is persisting. I need you to know if you aren't able to do this, we're going to have to move you out of the parlor, or we're going to have to consider whether or not you're eligible for your next raise. We might not be able to give you that morning off that you want once a month. I'm sorry, but we really just need you to make this adjustment. We're not yelling. We're simply adding pressure through a consequence. It's very important that the consequence is right-sized to whatever change you're asking for. Many farms and many businesses that I work with, they're like, well, I'll give them a consequence. The consequence is they're not going to work here anymore. And that is not what we're looking for. Not at all. That might be a consequence down the road, but we want to right size the consequence. We want to start with small consequences. So the whole point of this is that you have to start early and you have to be consistent in how you apply this. You also have to keep track. Where am I at with this particular employee? Am I at ask? Am I at tell? Or am I cultivating some consequences so that I can move to demand? Ask, tell, demand. This is so helpful for managers because I want you to think of people you know who are interacting with teams. And again, this could be the mom or the dad is the manager of that household, right? I use manager very collectively. Okay. It could be you're managing a group of volunteers and they're not following through on what they said they're going to do. You don't have to be paying them. You can use ask, tell, demand there too. And what I see is there's a group of managers that comes in and they're like, oh no, I just do demand. While I'm training, I tell them what the consequences are. Look at how efficient I am. No, you're intimidating. You're intimidating. And some of the people on your team are not going to respond to that because they're going to be scared. You do not need to start at demand. Almost never. Start with ask, move to tell, increase the pressure. That's one type of manager. And because I've worked with, I'm not even going to say it. Anyway, people who come from other countries who seem to have more of the tendency to come out of the gate strong. So anyway, toning that down is a great, important way to build trust. We got to tone that down. Their people have to be willing to come to them with their concerns as well, outside of ask, tell, demand. And if they're leading with demand, if they're truly leading with consequences and with that much pressure, nobody is going to tell them what's actually happening in their lives or what they need different at that business. So that is one kind of manager. The other kind of manager is the one who never can move out of ask. They're so kind and they're so passive and they're so caring. And they can never move out of ask, even to tell. And we have to have them grow their skills. And we have to have them find a little chutzpah in order to do that. Because you can only be a great manager if you are able to move from one to the other. Because most of your people will never need tell or demand. So start with ask, start with high trust. But some of them, even great employees, are going to need a little nudge once in a while. Those are your ideas, people. Those are your spark plugs. Those are the ones that might come early when they're really charged up over a project that they get to work on, right? You might have to tell them twice. They might be a little forgetful because they're worried about their new ideas. So there are really good reasons why we need tell and demand once in a while. So that is ask, tell, and demand. What I want you to do in the chat, some of you are probably already using parts of this. If you're like, yeah, I think I already do that, go ahead and just tell me which part of this you think you're already doing. Because this is one of those trainings where a lot of it is going to feel familiar. I'm just putting it in a framework that you can take what you already know and have some language around it. So if you'd be willing to, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about maybe how you're already using some of the steps, or it's really similar to how you handle a certain situation. I'd really like to see some of those. And just for the managers who have a really hard time moving from ask to tell, that little bit of boldness can really make a difference. I really, really hope that that this rings true for yourself or for managers around you. You got to get bold once in a while and be able to use that additional pressure. Okay, next what we're going to do is go on to sort of a fourth step in ask, tell, demand. And I think that this is also very, very important. After ask and after tell, we do need to take a pause. And this pause is where we consider our own interaction with this person. Are we doing everything we can to help them do their job right? And in that parentheses there, what I want you to hear in your own mind is, why no? Ask, tell. You've already told them twice at this point. You've already had the opportunity to be clear, and there might have been training in the first place. And so it's not like these are the first two. They maybe have already been trained and retrained, but you have some procedural drift. So you're using ask, tell, demand. After ask, no compliance. After tell, no compliance. I want you to pause before you go on to those consequences. And I want you to ask yourself, not them, you. That's why it's in parentheses. Why do I have a no? Why isn't this person able to make this adjustment? Because it's not just because they're stubborn. That is like 99% of the answer when I ask this is, well, they're just stubborn. I don't know why they can't listen. No, really, ask yourself, is there a lot of deferred maintenance in your parlor? And it's really hard to remember. We've got to adjust this unit this way, and we've got the button doesn't work on that one. And also, I mean, is it no because it's too many steps to remember because of that? Is it no because they're scared? Is this their first job working on a farm? If it's with your child or someone in an organization that you work with, are they afraid? Just a little afraid. They can get through it, but they need a little support to get through a little bit of fear. Is there no because there's a little fear there? Is there no because they have a physical constraint? I've seen requirements of people on farm where it really, like the person literally is not strong enough to lift something that they've been asked to do, right? And you need to take this bag of feed and move it over there, or take these 2 full 5-gallon buckets of water and take them over to the calf hutches. Well, okay, they might not physically be able to do that if they have some damage in their rotator cuffs, or who knows, right? Why no is really important. So please, please remember to ask why no. Sometimes it's purely their confidence. They are not confident in their own skill. You will get a no because they are just not ready to try. Slow down, retrain. I heard a new one last week. This person, they were getting a no by a person applying a protocol not in the right way. literally because the employee was so overly confident. I already know that. I don't need that training. What do you mean? I don't need that training. I've been doing this so long. And so overconfidence was a reason why they had no on compliance. Again, retraining, slowing that person down, helping them see that they still have some to learn. Then move on to demand, where you're going to implement that consequence, usually a pretty small consequence. So I want to come back really quick to the why no. These are going to be some of the busiest slides we have. I've already touched on these. They don't understand. They might be afraid. They literally physically can't do this job, something that you have to take into consideration. And fourth, and actually the least likely, is that they won't, because they're stubborn. The reason we almost always lead with is that they're just stubborn. They just won't do it. I don't know why. And it's the least likely. Please, as you're applying why no, consider this. Consider that while it's difficult to uncover, their stubbornness might actually be the least likely. So, why no? Don't understand and afraid? Define and retrain. That's what you're going to do. If you think we don't have understanding, even though I'm having a hard time understanding why we don't have understanding, because we've said this a million times and we've trained on this. If it's because they still don't have understanding, redefine and retrain. Again and again and again. It's the hallmark of the very best managers. You can say the same thing, and the best parents, I would say. You can say the same thing again and again with the same kind of conviction and understanding and care that you said it the first time. Number 3 is they can't. Like physically, they can't do this job. They literally don't have the capacity. This can happen. There's too many steps. It's just too much for them to understand and apply. It's okay to call that out and say, this person is just not well suited to this job. They can't do it. They just don't have this capacity yet. Then you're going to adjust. You're going to change the schedule. You're going to change who's doing the job. You're going to move them to a different department. You adjust. And 4, which is they won't do it, which is, again, the reason we always think they can't do it, or what you're going to do there is you're going to motivate. How do you think we're going to motivate? You can unmute. This is a good one. I want to see how do we, or put it in the chat.
Consequences.
Yes, exactly. That's right. So this just brings us right back to where we are, a right-sized consequence. And that is important because that's demand. The other reason that I really think it's important that we understand demand and kind of work with it and think about it in different ways is because when we give a consequence, we are putting the choice back on the person, our child, the employee, the volunteer who does not follow through. Okay, we're putting that choice back on them. Ultimately, it has to be their choice. You're the manager, you're the parent, you're the chair of the committee, but you can't make their choice for them. They have to make that choice. It is always up to them. Sometimes as managers and leaders, we think, well, my job is to fire them then. My job is to do this. No, 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 no. Your job is to put choices in front of them. It's their job to make the choice. Your job is to put choices in front of them. Their job is to make the choice. Depending on their choice, you might have to take additional action. But you never really choose to let someone go. They make that choice. If you've done a great job of helping them see what their options are, they make that choice. And you've made it clear that that is what will happen if they continue to, be non-compliant. So that's ask, tell, demand. Any questions? I'm definitely I planned to spend the most time on this one because I actually think it's the most applicable.